Hello everyone, it's Philip. Welcome to this video where I'll show you how to build push notifications, crypto push notifications, just like these ones. You can use Moralis to build these notifications for mobile, for desktop, for email, whatever you want. In this specific video, we're going to go through how you can build them on desktop. So similar to how you get MetaMask notifications on your PC or Mac on your computer, we're going to build so that you can build your own notification system. Maybe you're running a wallet or you're running a portfolio application where people can monitor their portfolio. Maybe you want to send them notifications when they get deposits, when they have sent assets, when price moves up, when price moves down. I'll show you exactly how to do that in a very simple way using Moralis Streams, which is the real-time webhook product of Moralis, which you can use in order to get real-time webhooks, real-time data from the blockchain across all the supported EVM blockchains for Moralis, also including actually Solana and Aptos, where you can get notifications on basically anything, on new blocks, on new transactions, on new mints, on any type of custom event that happens on chain. It's fully customizable. You can filter, you can do all of that fancy stuff. We're going to go through it step by step, exactly how you set it up in Moralis Streams, and the code base that you need, and then what the end result will look like. And before we get started, make sure that you like the video, that you subscribe to the Moralis YouTube channel, and leave any questions or feedback you have in the comment section below. All right, so this is what the actual front end will look like here. And you can apply this notification system to whatever platform or app you're running on. It could be an iOS app, Android app, a nice looking web app, or just a backend service for notification. It doesn't matter. Here I want to do the push notification on desktop, so I need a way for the user to actually subscribe in the browser. And here is what that will look like. Let me just check I'm unsubscribed. Oops. Yes. So I click connect and subscribe here. It will first connect my wallet. So here I have a test account set up on Sepolia. I will connect that. Then I will get a request if I want to allow to show push notifications. I hit allow. And now this user will be subscribed, this local browser will be subscribed. So now I can try to send some assets from one of my accounts into this account one, because this account one is what I've set up in Moralis Streams to listen for deposits, which I will show you later. So I will not connect that one, but I will make a transfer of some of these test tokens that I have. Transfer it into account one. I'll transfer these Venus tokens, 10 of those. Next. And this is only on Sepolia testnet, so I don't care about gas prices. And then when that now is sent, I should get a notification here. As you can see, I do get it from MetaMask, but here is our own notification. You received 10 Venus. You successfully received the deposit. And this message here we can completely customize. And as you can see, it was just as fast as MetaMask. It was sent instantly. And now I'll show you how I set this up in Moralis Streams. So let's get an overview of what this little system would look like. So first we would have Moralis Streams at the top. Boy, it's hard to write. Doing it for you. There we go. We have Moralis Streams. And here is where we would listen for, like, every time a block from the blockchain comes in, Streams handle that, and we can set up exactly what we want to get notified about. And Streams, in turn, will notify our own backend. So we will build a small NodeJS backend, okay? Oh, Node.js. And every time we get a match on ERC20 transfer, that's how we're going to configure our stream, ERC20, or like a native transfer, okay? That would be like ETH on the Ethereum network or Polygon on the Polygon network. You could also do NFTs. Now we're only going to do ERC20s and native transfers. And every time that happens, and it matches the addresses that we've given to it. So we will configure it with these events, and then we'll give it a list of addresses. And that would be like if you had a wallet product, all of your customers, all of the wallets that you want to listen to. I will only use one. I will only listen to my own wallet, and that will be the only wallet that I give it. But it's super easy. Like, you can feed it as many addresses as you want, through the Moralis API. So as soon as you get like a new client that signs up, you can just instantly send them send the new wallet address to streams, and it will add it to this listener. And you can add millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of addresses to streams without any problem. And then NodeJS will send a notification, actually. Well, let's start with this. For this, because there will be a step in between here. For this application, the client will be a web client. Okay, it will be a web browser. So it will be web browser notifications. And you could replace this with any type of client. It could be iOS notifications, mobile, or it could be Android, or it could be email. My handwriting is getting worse and worse, but there you go. It could be anything. But for this, we're going to use the normal web browser, Chrome web browser, and that's how you get these little small notifications at the bottom of your screen. And in order to do push notifications like that on the web, you need something called a service worker, which allows a service to send notifications regardless if you have the tab open or not, because you would set it up in your wallet page. So we're going to need to build a very simple web page that allows us to enable notifications. And you might have seen this from websites. You get a small pop-up that says, do you want to enable notifications for this site? You can click allow or block. And that's what we need to allow. When that happens, the browser sets up a service worker, which runs in the background and accepts notifications and sends them to you as soon as our backend receives them. And you can build these service workers yourself. It isn't too complicated. There are many tutorials out there. But for this video, I will use a service called OneSignal. That kind of packages this into a nice SDK and interface. And it's just a system that I'm used to using myself. So I will use OneSignal in this tutorial. And that will be an SDK that we add to the client-side website. And it will also be the API that we call whenever we want to send a push notification. So when we get the webhook from streams into our Node.js backend, we're going to take the address that is affected, the address, and also, of course, how much was deposited, like the amount, and the token name. So we can build the actual notification, and we'll send that to OneSignal. And then OneSignal will keep track of all the addresses and which client, like where they are, like which browser should we send it to, which computer should we send the notification to. And it will take the address that we send to it, and it will send it to the right client, because OneSignal will be connected to a bunch of different clients. If you have millions of clients, OneSignal will be connected to all of them. And it will take the address that we pass to them, and it will send the notification to the right person, okay? So that's what we need to do. That's the system here. We're gonna start by setting up the streams over at moralis.io. And to set up our streams, you need to go to admin.moralis.io. Let me show you here. There you go. And log into the admin panel. And if you don't have an account already, you can sign up for one by going to moralis.io. Let me show you. Go to moralis.io and click start for free or log in, and you can create your account completely for free. I'm already signed in, so I'll be taken straight here, going to my project. And then for this video, we're going to use Moralis Streams, which is our webhook product. But I have my notification stream set up here. This is the one that I am using, but I will get started from scratch so you see exactly the steps that I'm taking. So we're going to create a new stream. And to start with, you need to add an address for you to, or actually we can use this template. So there's a template here at the moment that wherever wallet receives or sends assets, we're going to use that. And then you need to type in a wallet address to watch. And this is only to get started. Once you've added an address, you actually can add more addresses programmatically. So you can add it through the SDK or the API. But to start with, we need to copy the wallet address that we want to use for our testing. So I'm going to copy in my test address here. Click next. And you can see that that address has been added here. And you can add more addresses here if you want. but for now I'll keep it to this one. And currently the stream configuration is set to demo, which means that all the events will show up here if there are any. And later on we can add our webhook URL, and we can already now put this as YouTube notifications, as it's called tag. It's really the name. We're gonna redo this, and then here we'll put push notifications as the description. The network will not be Ethereum mainnet, but it will be Sepolia, because we're going to use test tokens, and we're going to include contract interactions, because that are, all the token transfers are really smart contract interactions, and native transactions. We will not include internal transactions in this one, even though you could include that as well. And that's really the configuration now that we need. You can enable any chain that you want, but for testing purposes, you will only need one chain, and that's, for me, is going to be Sepolia. That's where I have some test assets. And we're going to hit update stream. And now, when there are any events, these are going to show up here. So I'm going to try to do an actual transfer to my wallet. And there we go. Now I get the first webhook here. And you can now explore this in this tab right here. And what we're going to be looking at for this one is the ERC20 transfers section. That's what we're going to be monitoring in our code. And you can see here that I transferred one of these tokens called Venus. It's one of the testnet tokens that are available on Sepolia. And you can see who sent it and the receiver. And the receiving address is the address that I monitored here. Something to pay attention here, though, is that for now, you cannot filter specifically in Moralis streams from or to. So these streams will send us a webhook even if we're sending an asset. So we're going to have to filter for that in our backend code. But this is the type of webhook that we'll get back, and you can copy this here if you want an actual example JSON string to have in your code. But you can also see that we did include other things as well, such as block information. And that will be standard stuff that comes with every block. You'll get the block number, block hash, block timestamp, but we don't really need to care about that. We're only interested in the actual ERC20 transfers and also the native transfers. So that will be the transactions. But as you see here, this transaction has value 0 because it's a transaction that only carried the ERC20 transfer. So that's also something that we're going to need to filter for, because we actually didn't receive any ether, even though it was a transaction. And now that we have that set up, we're going to go into our editor, and I'm going to show you the backend application that we're going to build in order to be able to receive these webhooks and send that information over to OneSignal. So here is a very basic NodeJS application, and we're going to start in the actual server side, because then I also have a client folder where we'll have the client-side application. But for now, we're going to start with the server side that handles the webhook. So we're going to need the standard Node.js and Express stuff. And I also have, instead of having a user database with all of the users that I have, because you're going to need to know which addresses that you're actually checking for in the webhook. I have just an array of addresses. You might have a user database connected. And I would say that this application is very basic vanilla Node.js and vanilla JavaScript, just to demonstrate how to use streams for push notifications. You will most likely have a way more sophisticated system, so that's why I wouldn't recommend you to do like this precisely. Instead, use streams as the source and build that into your own backend system. But here I have an endpoint to retrieve the webhook. We just simply respond to the request. You need to do that, otherwise Moralis streams will eventually throw an error if you don't respond to the webhook. I just console log that we got a new hook, and eventually I run and return the handle hook function. And in the handle hook function, the first thing I check if the transaction is confirmed or not through body.confirmed. Now, if it is confirmed, I just return here and I don't continue. Only if it's an unconfirmed transaction do I send the notification, because you want the notification as quickly as possible, not waiting for the confirmations to pass. Otherwise, if you didn't check this, you will get 2 notifications, because Moralis Streams sends one webhook on just when the transaction is added to the first block, And then when it is confirmed, meaning it has passed a certain amount of blocks, that will depend on the chain that you're on, depending on the block speed. So in order to just send that notification when it first enters the blockchain, I only do it if it's non-confirmed. And then create an array with all the notifications that I will be sending. Because if you have lots of users, you will get in one webhook everything that happened in that block. So you might get many transactions, many transfers in a single block, and you would only get one notification, or sorry, one webhook. So you're gonna need to collect all the notifications for that block. Then I loop through the ERC20 transfers, and just to help you, I have copied this body here that I get from Moralis streams. I did that from the demo interface. I copied that, and I get something like this. So here you can like see what the structure is. You would get logs, you would get transactions, you would get ERC20 transfers as arrays. So for the ERC20 transfers array and for the transactions array, I loop through those and I look if I have any user in my user database as the recipient. All right. Hopefully soon you can filter already in Moralis streams for just the recipient, so you don't actually have to check this. But for now I have to check if any of our users are in the recipient column. So I use users.find to see if I have any element in that array of addresses in the users array that match transfers.to. And if that's the case, I will get the receiver, and then I can add the notification to my array. So I push that to this array of notifications with the sender, receiver, the amount, and the actual token name. Then I do the same thing for the native transactions. Exactly the same thing, but here from address to address it has a little bit of a different naming scheme, transactional value, and then the token name here will be ETH. If you're on multiple chains here, you need to change this depending on the chain that you're on, but for Sepolia, for Ethereum, the native token will always be ETH. And that's it for handling the webhook. After that, all we do, if the actual notifications array has some notification in it, I will trigger the send notification function, which is down here. And in the send notifications function, here is where we send the notification to OneSignal. And now we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here because we still haven't added our users to OneSignal, but we'll get to that in a second. So all that we're doing here is that we're telling OneSignal, hey, send a push notification, and I want you to send it, you can see this row, to an account with the external ID being the address. And here I take the address and I remove the 0x, so the address will be 0x something something something. I take it to lowercase, and then I slice off the first two digits, the 0x part, and I just keep that part of the address. Or I can actually show you with the real address. So here is my real address. The ID that I use for OneSignal would be this, and then this, but everything to lowercase. But I think this already is lowercase, yeah. So it will be this. And that's because for some reason, OneSignal does not like when you have an ID with 0x in front. It doesn't work. And it also, I think it's case sensitive. So that's why I always make sure we're lowercase. And then the contents here will be you've successfully received the deposit, and the heading is you've received this much of this token. And we send that to OneSignal. Now, the only thing that's left is that to make sure that we connect our user to OneSignal and enable push notifications in a browser. And that's the client side of this application. And by the way, even though this code shouldn't really be used in any production application because it's a quick demo app, I've linked the code down below. So if there's anything that you're unsure about and want to copy or check out again in your own time, you can get the code below. And just to recap a little bit of what we're going to do with the client and why we both need the client and NodeJS to communicate with OneSignal. So what we need to tell OneSignal from the client is our address. So we take our address when we're in our client application, we connect MetaMask and we send our address to OneSignal. And we say, you know, this address is the address that I am connected to. I want push notifications for this address. So we tell OneSignal that, hey, this is what I want in terms of notifications. I am this address. So send me anything about this address. So then every time our Node.js tells OneSignal, hey, something has happened to this address, OneSignal will know which browser session, like which service worker is connected to which address. So that's what we need to tell OneSignal. We need to log into OneSignal and tell it, hey, this is my address, this is my ID, send me the notifications for this address. So that's what we're doing with the client side as a quick recap. And then Node.js is simply sending the notifications to OneSignal, tells it which address is going to receive this push notification, and then OneSignal will send it out. And in terms of the client side, it's even more of a simple application. I have an index.html file with, in terms of the body, only a title, a button to enable notifications and subscribe to notifications, and then I have a JavaScript file called main.js. And apart from that, I've included the OneSignal script here, which we'll get from the OneSignal website. And this is just a normal SDK script with your app ID inserted and then some Safari web ID, I guess, to make it work on Safari. I'll show you how to get this in a second, but I'll just walk you through the code first. We also have web3.js to handle the wallet connection. And in main.js, all I have is the window.connect function, which is what happens when you press the button, connect and subscribe. What we'll do then is that we'll connect the wallet, we'll get the actual address or the Web3 object from the browser, we'll get the address and do the same thing here, 2 lowercase and slice, and say onesignal.login. So we tell OneSignal, this user now is the address. So the user that's in the browser has this address. We send that address to OneSignal. We add, oh, this actually is not used. We don't need that. We just log in. We do OneSignal notification request permission. We will trigger this little box to request permission to notify you. And that's it. That's all the client side needs to do. You also need to follow the OneSignal documentation, and that involves a few steps. Not only do you need to add this code right here, but you also need to add this OneSignal SDK worker into your client folder. It needs to be available in the root of your web app. So let me show you that setup in OneSignal. All right, so the next piece that we're going to need is a OneSignal account. And once again, you don't need this. You can build this yourself using service workers. You can Google, web push notifications, service worker, and you'll get some guides on doing that. But this is just a bit of a shortcut for us during this tutorial. So you need to sign up for a free OneSignal account here. I'm going to go ahead and log into mine. So here are all of my apps. This one is the one I'm using now. But let me show you how I set it up. So you click new app website, you name this something, YouTube notifications, organization, and then you select web here, configure platform. And here I chose custom code. I named the site, now it's just going to be localhost. Localhost is going to be localhost :3000. Let me zoom in here. And then let's see, auto resubscribe. You can't disable that. Local testing. This is going to need to be on. Treat HTTP localhost as HTTPS for testing. You can input a logo if you want that. And then you click save. Continue with this URL. And then here's where we download the SDK files. And this is the service worker file they need to place in the root of your, as I said here, download the OneSignal SDK files and upload them to the top level root of your site directory on the client side. Then you need to add this code to the site. And this is the code that I have in my head section of the website. And that's all that you need to do. I also actually removed this notify button. I don't have this because I don't want their default notify button. I want my own button so that I can connect it to the wallet. So that's the only thing that I removed from there. And once you've added all of that to your code, like I showed you before, what's going to happen is once you connect and subscribe your user here, now I think I'm already connected, so nothing's going to happen. But what's going to happen in your project, if I go, I'm going to remove this now because I don't want it to interfere. Come on now, clear. I don't want it to interfere with my other app. Because I use the same domain for both, and apparently that can cause some issues. And then I go into my actual app that I'm using, and I check on audience, subscriptions, and then the one that is subscribed here is this middle one. And what you'll see here is that I have this external ID. This is what happens when you pass in that ID into the login function. It will set, you'll get not only this OneSignal ID, but you'll get an external ID. And this is an ID that you can customize and set yourself. This is like an alias for your OneSignal user. So once you get the webhook, you're telling, because you get the wallet address from the stream, from the webhook, then you tell OneSignal, I want to send a notification to this specific wallet address. And that works because your user, when they sign up for push notifications, you have passed in their wallet address to OneSignal. And that is what allows us to, in this send notifications function, to send the notification to the address as the alias, because we have made that alias when we call the login function on the client side. Now that we have the code set up, all we need to do now is connect the webhook over at Moralis Streams, because remember, we still set that in demo mode. We need to connect that to our local host instance of this Node.js app. And to do that, we're going to use ngrok, which is a way for us to tunnel requests from the web to our local machine. I'll show you how to set that up. And in order to install ngrok, you go to ngrok.com/download. And here, depending on your platform, you install it in this way. And once you have installed it, you can open up your terminal, and you can, just like I did here, you can run ngrok http 3000 if that's the port that your application is running on, and that will give you a forwarding URL. So now this URL here will forward to my localhost 3000, which is where my Node.js app is running at. So I copy this ngrok URL, and then I go to the Streams website. And here I go into my YouTube notifications. I will deactivate this one, by the way, I'll pause that one. And I go into my YouTube notifications, I edit that stream. And for webhook URL, I now put this ngrok URL, and I think my path was /Moralis. That's what I put in my code as the path, /Moralis. All right. And I toggle it to production mode. I update the stream. Now in your terminal, you should now see a few requests posted by Moralis, because it will send a few test notifications. And then you go back to the stream's homepage, and you make sure to finally enable the stream from here, activate stream. All right. And now it's live, and now we'll start to send requests from streams through this ngrok tunnel to your localhost instance. All right. And that means that we can finally test all of this to see how it works, because now we're listening for our address. We have a front end where our user can go in and subscribe to notifications using their wallet. And then as soon as something happens, it will now send a notification to us from Moralis Streams to our backend through OneSignal to our client. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to make sure that I I reset all the permissions for notifications here. And I'm also going to make sure that I'm signed out from OneSignal through the console. And then I'll click connect and subscribe. Get my account, which is also connected to my stream. I can of course add this account also if I wanted to. Connect. And then I'll get this box in terms of showing notifications. I'll click allow. And now I'm connected to OneSignal. I've connected this browser session and this service worker to OneSignal using my address that I connected through MetaMask. And that means now if I go ahead and make a transfer, so I'll transfer into this account from my K account. I will not connect and dismiss. Send account 1. I will send this token 12. Next. Hit confirm. And now we just wait for that first confirmation to show up. And there we go. Now they came even precisely at the exact same time. Maybe MetaMask also uses OneSignal. No, but it's instant, it's fast. And of course you can configure this message however you want. Now since it's localhost, we're displaying this localhost down here. We have no logo, so you can configure that however way you see fit. But that is the way that is the end result of what we've been building here. One drawback with all of this though, and it's kind of the demo nature of all of this, is right, this will not work if you have multiple people with the same address. So we're not actually authenticating the user here. If we want to make sure that only one user, the real wallet owner, can subscribe to notifications, then we need to authenticate the user. Or if you want multiple users to be able to watch the same address, then you cannot use the address as the sole ID. Then you need to build segments so that you have certain browsers watching a set of address, or one address. So it would be like OneSignal. If there is a transfer happening to a wallet, it needs to be able to send notifications to many browsers. So it will be like a segment of users that are watching a particular address, because many users might be interested in watching, let's say, Vitalik's address. So it depends on the application you're building. This is mainly a showcase of what streams can do. Hopefully you'll take that and build something really, really cool with it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and let me know if you have any questions down below, or maybe something that you would want to see in a future video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.